First of all, thanks everybody for being here today. We so appreciate it. YWCA worked really hard to put this event on, and we're just so grateful that you're all here. My name is Heidi Deidinger. I am the Executive Director for the YWCA. This is my second event. Last year was my first one. Just started with the YWCA at that time, and so thankful to be working for them in this community. The event goal for this event is $42,000, and it's something we've been working on. You know, the work starts at the beginning of the year and culminates at this event, and we are just about at that goal. So again, for everybody who's thought about us and donated, yeah, let's give that a hand. And the money raised today goes to our Crisis and Empowerment Services and Alternatives to Violence domestic programs. With your help getting these pledges and donations and your participation tonight, like I said, the YWCA is going to make that goal. Now, tonight's event kicks off Domestic Violence Awareness Month. At least 100 lives have been lost to domestic violence in 2022. That's one person killed every 3.6 days. 10% of the victims are under the age of 18. So what we like to do at the beginning of this event is in honor, or in remembrance, remembrance and to honor the people lost to domestic violence. We like to just have some silence for about 10 to 15 seconds. So if you could all just take a moment, that would be great. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. It takes a team of dedicated advocates to provide important domestic violence services to our community. Domestic violence victims come to us through phone calls, referrals from law enforcement, from friends, in the back of police cars, in the middle of the night, and often with only the clothes on their backs. Our domestic shelter on site at the YWCA Center is open 24 hours. We have a 24-hour hotline, and we are open 365 days a year. Our services are needed and are necessary, and we thank you for walking and raising money today to help us help these victims. We are going to have some people come up in a few minutes here, and they're going to tell their story about domestic violence and how it has affected their life. But before we do that, we would like to bring up Sergeant Carrasco to the stage. Oh, there he is. Come on over here. So we usually have Chief Moore here and other representatives from the police department. As you all know, Chief Moore retired last week Friday, and said that he was going on a long and deserved vacation, so he's not with us today. But we are so lucky to have Sergeant Carrasco here, and Sergeant Carrasco is the domestic violence intervention team lead for the Janesville Police Department. So we'd just like him to say a few words before we get to our speakers.
I might have to adjust this. Well, thanks for being here. So I was part of the domestic violence intervention team before I promoted. Then once I promoted, I did take over the program. With it, I have worked very closely with Victim Witness as well as the YWCA. We have implemented a new program that's countywide, and that's the lethality assessment program. So that has helped us in getting resources for victims in a more timely manner. Most of the times, if it's a severe incident, it's the day of. So I think that is a great thing that we're doing countywide, not just here in Janesville. And just wanted to give some kudos to the Janesville DVI team. This year we were asked to go talk at the Department of Justice. It's a 2-day training statewide, and they reached out to us to have us as speakers for our domestic violence team. So I'd just like to take the team on that part. So I'm ready to walk in some heels here. Thank you.
Sergeant Carrasco, thank you for your service to our community and for being such great partners with us. We also have, where's the Sheriff's Department back there? Raise your hand, Rock County. They walk every year. Thank you for being here. like to welcome Angie, Sierra, and Kim. These ladies are here to share their experiences with you. So come on up, ladies.
Thanks, Heidi. My name is Angie McBride. I am a recovering addict and a survivor of domestic violence. I started at the YWCA as an intern for Graduate School of Social Work in 2019. Then was hired as a caseworker in 2020, and as of this year, am the assistant director for our Alternatives to Violence programs. My master's project was on the prevalence of addictions in correlation with domestic violence, inspired not only by my personal experiences, but also by clients like Sierra. My research findings, my personal experiences, and hers helped us not only to modify our practices when dealing with substance and alcohol use, but to also start offering a 12-step program, specifically an evidence-based curriculum called Trauma in the 12 Steps. This inclusive curriculum covers any and all struggles through a trauma-informed approach. I am happy to share that since we started the program in September of 2021, I have facilitated 99 support groups and 619 individual sessions. So now I'd like to turn things over to Kim.
Gotta move this up from the short people. So, hello. Thank you, Angie, again, for sharing your story and turning your story into working with some survivors of domestic violence. I'm Kim Rao, and I'm a victim witness specialist with the Rock County District Attorney's Office Victim Witness Program, specializing in domestic abuse cases. I began my career as a law enforcement officer and have witnessed and experienced domestic violence in a very different way. As a law enforcement officer, I responded to hundreds of incidents involving domestic violence, and unfortunately had to take the life of a domestic abuser during one of those incidents. This incident led me to try and understand how an abuser, who is also a son, a father, and a husband, got to a point that he burst into the home of his estranged wife and children and tried to take their lives. This was something the abuser had planned out. Working through that incident emotionally and physically led me to my current role as a victim witness specialist. This incident not only affected me, but my community of people, including my own family, as I was then dealing with having caused the death of a person, even though it was to save lives that day. My role now often looks a lot different from the advocates at the YWCA, as it's more system-based and not community-based. My role as a victim witness specialist is to provide support, educate, assist, and inform victims as defined by Wisconsin statutes about the criminal justice system. I work closely with the community resources, our community resources such as the YWCA and the Defy Center in Rock County, to help survivors and victims of domestic abuse outside of what the criminal justice system has available. I work directly with prosecutors, at the district attorney's office, court commissioners, and judges in Rock County to ensure a victim's voice is heard and that their rights as a victim are being considered throughout the criminal justice process, even if I don't agree with what a survivor or victim's wishes are, more often because of safety. There's a common assumption that domestic abuse victims should just leave. However, many of us that work with domestic abuse victims and survivors know that leaving does not mean the abuse ends, and there is oftentimes an abuser uses that system to further victimize and control them. Questions I often answer are things like, what happens when the police arrive? What happens when an abuser is arrested and or is released from jail? What happens when a restraining order or bond conditions no longer exist or expire? Survivors or victims under the influence of their abuser, even after arrest, are often isolated and fearful to report the abuse. Survivors or victims often have a familial relationship with their abuser through shared children, and even still harbor feelings of care and love for their abuser. The abuser may reinforce these feelings through additional threats and abuse, which may make the survivor or victim reluctant to take steps to participate in the criminal prosecution against their abuser. Every survivor or victim has a different story, and I am thankful to be here today to share with you my experience and role in supporting victims and survivors of domestic abuse. It's now my honor to welcome a survivor of domestic abuse who is bravely willing to share her story with us today, Sierra.
Thank you for taking a minute to listen to my story. My name is Sierra. I am 29 years old. I am a mom to 3 kids, a girl and 2 boys. They are the reason I fight every single day. I am a recovering addict and I am a domestic violence survivor. Life is good for us and I am so grateful to be here today. In 2017, I had gotten together with someone I thought I was going to marry and spend my life with. He took me and my daughter in. He understood me. He knew I had struggles and he did too. We were heavily dependent on each other. The drugs and alcohol were a constant in our lives. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was our story. I've always tried to fix things and the person I was with was broken. I saw him and wanted so badly to be the one to take him and mold him into my knight in shining armor. Essentially, fix him. I was so in love and so blinded for so long. I remember so many times I wore long sleeves and jeans, not only to hide the bruises he caused, but because he was so jealous if he saw me wearing shorts or any tight-fitting clothing. Who are you trying to show off to? So I stopped. I wore no makeup because, again, according to him, I was cheating. I tried so many times to leave on my own, and every single time he was there texting me and calling me, telling me he had changed. I was the one who was broken. He knew my weaknesses and took advantage of my kindness. He ended up molding me into this person I didn't recognize. At the end of May of 2020, I had given birth to my youngest son 5 because of the stress and physical abuse I had been through. I sat in the hospital alone, gave birth alone. A time that should have been happy and filled with love was one of the loneliest. When I got out June of 2020, I had given up completely. After he went on a week-long bender of drugs and drinking hard liquor, I was his punching bag. I was so tired. I was praying that something would change. I prayed every single day. I remember so little from that week, and I'm still not sure on all the details, but I remember one night, I blacked out. I heard the cops breaking the door down, and I was in shambles, holding my baby. My other 2 kids were in the next room, scared and hiding. My mom had called the police to do a wellness check because nobody could get in contact with me since he smashed my phone. I remember I kept saying I didn't want to press charges, that I was okay. The cop, bless his heart, he was so kind and exactly what I needed. He told me to actually look at myself. I hadn't checked a mirror because I knew I was not going to like what I saw. The cop took a picture and asked me to just look at it. I remember I didn't even recognize the person I was looking at. I was lost. I remember the cop saying, "You can press charges and you will be safe." I tried to tell him I have no place to go. This was my home for 3 years and he was all I knew. That is when the cops told me about the YWCA. As he was saying this, I kept thinking, a shelter? I can't do that. I am fine. I'm not one of those people. We will work this out, but with my abuser in jail, his family thinking I was the reason, I had no choice. In late June of 2020, I entered shelter for the first time. I was not the person I wanted to be and was so scared and lonely and a new mom to now 3 kids. I was not even sure this was my choice to go into shelter. I felt forced by everyone around me. I felt like I was still going to be with my abuser when he got out. He just needed time. I was more worried about him being mad at me. As kind and caring the women at shelter were, I was not in the right headspace. I knew I was struggling mentally and physically, and the only thing that helped was alcohol. I got kicked out because they had a zero tolerance for alcohol policy. My dad and stepmom let me stay with them for a week until I could figure out what I was going to do. I was calling places to find somewhere to go, and CPS showed up. I was so scared. The only time CPS ever shows up is to take your kids, or so I thought. The lovely worker was so nice and gave me an option to enter an inpatient treatment center, and they worked out a deal where if I finished the treatment, I could go back to shelter. The hard part was I had to give up my kids voluntarily for that time to a foster family. Those were some really sad times. When I got back out, the shelter was dealing with COVID and put me in a motel for 2 weeks until it was safe. Unfortunately, being back with open range, no rules, no support, and all 3 of my kids, I was drinking again.
I knew I wasn't going to be able to stop, but after everything I had gone through, I just wanted a release. It only took 3 days, and I was caught drinking again at the shelter. I was once again without a place to go in August of 2020. Thankfully, my sister was so kind to let me and my kids stay for a week, and my mother was there to let me come back to her house at the end of that week. In September of 2020, my abuser got out of jail, and of course, as always, he was so charming, telling me he had changed. I was drinking every single day still and was right back with him. I was just so consumed with being a family and making it work. I really thought he was the only one who understood me and would take care of me. The last straw was June of 2021. We had been drinking and he was up for 3 days and he had put a gun to my head. I was tired of being tired and tired of letting him take advantage. I didn't want to be a drunk or drug addict. I wanted to feel human again. I wanted to just feel in general instead of covering it up with the drugs and alcohol. I grabbed my 3 kids while he was upstairs throwing things around, and the only thing I grabbed was my purse and the clothes on our back. I ran out of the house and drove far away until I wound up in the parking lot of a Family Dollar. I sat there and cried for a good 20 minutes, called my mom and told her I was done, and called crisis. They put me and my kids into a motel for a couple of weeks. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I have to call the YWCA, and I was so nervous. I kept thinking, I just know they aren't going to let me come back. I had 2 chances already and blew them. But 3rd time's the charm. I remember it was the end of our first week at the motel. I got the call from Angie. She was letting me know they had a room for me and my kids, and we could come there on Monday. I fell on my knees and cried. I was so thankful. I knew this was my time to show myself and my kids that I was going to do this right. I was going to give them the life they deserve. I went back determined. My goal was not only to show myself I could do it, but also show the staff that I was so grateful for a 3rd chance. I did my chores, kept my head down, stayed to myself, stayed positive, and got a job that at least kept me out of the house. We had trauma recovery groups weekly, and that was something that was not offered before in 2020. The staff became a family to me. Whatever I was dealing with and whenever I was struggling, they were there rooting me on. This was different and helped me realize I was not alone. After a year at shelter, I got the news that I was finally getting into transitions. I was ecstatic. Finally a home for me and my kids. Finally a place to call our own. I moved into transitions, and at first it was a lot. A lot of responsibilities and something completely different. With monthly meetings, I was feeling like my voice was finally heard. They were not just listening to me, but actually hearing my words. I don't ever expect to be cured, but day by day, I am finding myself. July 18th marked 2 years of complete sobriety. I have a wonderful job. I finally got my family back after years of losing their trust because of my addiction and my relationship. My kids are in daycare and school. I got a new vehicle, and I'm the person I always wanted to be. I am finally in control of my life. The biggest thing that helped me keep going was knowing my kids were finally safe and happy, and I never wanted to be so dependent on anything or anyone again. On the hard days, I remember how far I have come and how awesome I really am. I kicked my addiction butt and got my life back on track. I did that. I am forever grateful for the people at YWCA who helped give me my life back and my 3rd chance. I hope my story will inspire someone who is struggling to reach out. Sometimes it takes more than 1, 2, 3, even 10 tries, and that is okay. Just remember you're not a failure and you can do it. Someone is always here rooting for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sierra, for sharing your powerful story with us today. Thank you, Kim, for also sharing your story. Thank you both for giving us multiple perspectives as evidence of the complexity of domestic violence. I would also like to thank an amazing, awe-inspiring boss who could not be here with us tonight, but definitely is here in spirit, Jessie Campbell, for supporting, I just want to thank her for supporting, trusting, and giving me and others opportunities to help continuously grow our programming. And Heidi, we appreciate you so much too for not only doing the same, but for truly listening and hearing us. And Sierra, when we feel beat down, drained, broken, just not enough as advocates. We remember clients like you, and we are then able to get back up and continue fighting. We are so proud of you, and we feel so honored to have been a part of your inspiring journey. And now I'd like to turn things back over to our empowering director, Heidi.
I had the best job in the world. I mean, some days are hard when you hear stories like that, but the things that make it all worthwhile and make it the best job in the world is that we have amazing staff who just are out there continually getting the work done on the front lines and working with great partners who are doing the same. So thank you very much. It's hard to follow that up and not be emotional. That is like such a story, and again, so thankful for the work that we do in the community and for people like you out. You know, people, we couldn't do this without you guys helping us. Thank you. Thanks for all the support from the community. Wow. Okay, now who's ready to walk? Let's follow Dan and Julia as they lead us. So thanks everybody. We'll see you after the walk. Thank you. We've just completed the 17th walk a mile in her shoes. Such an incredible turnout. Woo! Yeah. It's so wonderful to see a community rally together to support such vital services. Now I'd like to introduce our 17th annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes committee chairs. Dan Cunningham and Julia Jorgensen, please come on to the stage. Woohoo!
I'm going to start pulling people up this way.
So I have to raise this thing because I'm so tall in these heels. Thank you, Heidi. I'm Dan Cunningham. I work for N1 Critical Technologies here in Janesville, a proud sponsor of this event, and I am honored to once again serve as the co-chair for this event to raise awareness of domestic violence issues in Rock County. And you know, this is kind of a light-hearted event at its core, but the issue that it tackles is very serious. I think domestic violence has touched the lives of so many, and you heard from our speakers earlier about the effects that it can have. And the programming that the YWCA puts forward is so important to this community, and we appreciate them doing it. So this important event helps support the YWCA's programming to help victims of domestic violence get back up on their feet. And this is the 17th annual Walk a Mile shoes in our shoes, as Heidi mentioned. And I think I've been in 16 of them, and in year one I got heels that didn't fit, and that was a bad idea, so I got these terrible heels here.
Stilettos.
The stilettos, yes. And I strap these bad boys on every year to honor victims of domestic violence in Rock County and to create awareness, frankly, of the issues that we face. Events like this one will ensure that the YWCA will always be able to support these women and children during, frankly, their darkest hours. And there are so many people that helped to make this event happen, so I want to recognize them. First of all, our 2023 Walk a Mile ambassadors. So these are individuals that sign up and pledge to raise $2,000. I'm one of them. I've got a little bit of work to do for that $2,000, so if you want to donate anything, please look my way. But this is done. They raise money in a variety of ways. They have events. I mean, her husband Jason had a hot dog roast and raised a bunch of money that way. You know, donations, raffles, things like that. So they really go in a variety of ways to raise money. So any ambassadors out there, please give a wave. All right, let's give them all a hand. And now I'd like to recognize Julia Jorgensen of Velocity Multisport Cycling and many other things throughout the community for a few brief remarks. Julia.
I'm not as tall as him. Thank you, Dan. And he is honestly walking around in stiletto heels. Like, as a woman, no thank you. So, give him a round of applause for walking that long mile. So, he did great. He did great. So, as Dan said, my name is Julia Jorgensen. I am one of the 4 owners of Velocity Multisport and Cycling here in Janesville, Wisconsin. And we are proud members of the community. One of the reasons that we opened our business was so that we could really plan and help with these type of events. Because at the core of our values, at the core of our business is giving back to the community. So we are honored to be here, and I'm honored to be with this amazing group of people and these advocates and survivors. They're just all amazing, and to have a conversation with them and to share this space with them tonight is truly amazing. So they're all amazing people, so thank you very much. I just want to say that I am truly proud of not only my husband, Jason, who, if you've seen him walking around tonight, he walks in heels very, very well. But I also wanted to point out that he's not just him, he's one of the ambassadors, but it's also my son, Jacob, who is 11 years old. He just started at Marshall Middle School this year, and he walked a mile in heels, and he helped his dad raise over $2,000 for this amazing charity tonight. So let's give him a big round of applause. And that's it for me. I'm going to hand it back to Heidi. Thank you guys all for being here tonight, and for all of you men and women that are not used to high heels, give yourself a round of applause.
Thank you, Dan and Julia, for your leadership and for the work that the ambassadors teams and everyone has been doing for the last several months. I think we're wrapping up here, and again, just know that you all made a difference here tonight in the lives of our clients and those who have experienced domestic violence. Thank you, Sierra, Angie, and Kim, for sharing your story. We are honored to have you join us tonight. Thank you for all of our sponsors, our board members, all the staff that were here tonight, everybody who helped put this together. If I didn't mention your name individually and personally, thank you so much. And again, thank you for coming and helping us raise awareness and funds for our Alternatives to Violence program. And we just thank you so much, and we hope to see you again next year.